Hello, my name is Dr. Peter Welgen. I am a clinical psychologist and a research psychologist and the director of the Welgen Center for Behavioral Medicine. Thank you for joining me for a moment. If you have a moment or two, I would appreciate it if you could just hang in here with me, because what I am going to be talking about today is something I believe the general public will be quite interested in. And for those of you who are suffering from some of the disorders that I'm going to be talking about, this could be a very valuable educational opportunity to take a look at treatment options that otherwise you may not have been aware of. Oh, what am I talking about? As a research psychologist, I am what's called a psychophysiologist over here at the University of California, Irvine, where I've spent a number of years in psychiatry and in the departments of medicine, and where I published in the field of gastroenterology. Nevertheless, I am now recording here from my center and actually in my office. What I'm going to be talking about here over the next year will be a series of topics, I think, as I mentioned earlier, that you should find very interesting. It is a subject area I've been involved in professionally for probably 4 decades now. It is the area of psychology that overlaps medicine. They interface, they overlap. It's an area where the psychological factors actually begin to affect the physical functioning of the body. And that is how the mind begins to influence organ system function. How does the brain affect organ systems in such a way that the organ systems begin to malfunction? Right, that's right. The dysfunctional organ system. Well, that area of the medicine and psychology is called psychosomatic medicine. Psychosomatic medicine is actually a sub-area of a much larger field I'm in. And it is called psychophysiology, where we just don't study the influence of psychological factors on medical conditions, but we study the effect of psychological factors on the body generally. How different aspects of one's own personality, psychological influences, can affect different parts of the body. Well, in this lecture series, which, by the way, I invite you to join me on, start tomorrow, and I am going to be lecturing on several different aspects of this field that have interested me. The first one is obesity. I'm going to be presenting over a period of about 5 or 6 consecutive days an analysis of the problem of obesity in the United States, the world, how we get fat, how we stay fat, and how we can't lose it. Okay? It has become epidemic. No matter what we throw at this, we can't seem to create a system, therapeutic system, where the individual can lose weight and keep it off for more than about 1.5 to 3 years, at which time they begin to put it right back on again and become at least as heavy as they were when they started this weight reduction program, and often much heavier. And it is one of the reasons why, if you take a look at the literature, you'll notice that 97% of those who attempt to lose weight and keep it off fail. The failure rate among weight loss programs is 97%. A staggering. That has given rise to bariatric surgery, which in some ways is very draconian and a statement of our utter failure to be able to deal with this in any other way. So I'm going to be talking about the rise of obesity, how we cannot change, and what I have done in recent years in developing a lot of behavior modification procedures that come right out of experimental laboratories in learning theory at universities throughout the United States. A lot of principles that have been well established over 120 years, and bring them into my weight management program. I've completed research in this, presented it at world conferences, and it is going to press here soon. Okay, so we want to talk about how to approach the whole problem of chronic obesity and increasing obesity in the United States and the world. The next series of presentations and lectures will be in an area that I have been interested in for 4 decades, I guess, and that is gastrointestinal medicine. If you take a look at my early work, my actual doctoral work, it was actually in gastroenterology. Yeah, I'm a psychophysiologist who's interested in the gastrointestinal tract. It doesn't make too much sense, but it did to me. Anyway, the area that I really became interested in, initially, still am, is the ability of the individual to voluntarily control part of the involuntary nervous system that controls acid secretion in the stomach. Can an individual actually learn how to turn on and off hydrochloric acid, pepsin in the stomach, to actually reduce the risk of ulceration? Okay? Anyway, that led to a lot of work that I continue to do right down the GI tract into the colon. If you take a look at my later work over here, you'll notice that I've spent a good deal of time working on a particular problem, and that is irritable bowel syndrome. Wow. Is that I'm almost at epidemic proportions here, but it is a significant problem for the physician. Okay, irritable bowel conditions are very frequently discovered by physicians. I've been working in that field and treating irritable bowel patients successfully with this specialized behavior modification program I have for the regulation of motor activity in the colon. I'll talk to you more about that down the line. One of the most intriguing problems I think I've been interested in is inflammatory bowel disease. Inflammatory bowel disease. The two major ones are Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Both of them involve this really sinister and terrible inflammatory response in the colon, which can lead to really serious medical problems. Okay? This is an autoimmune disease where the body's defense system thinks the colon is an invading enemy and attacks it. Good luck. Okay, when you have your own immune system attacking you here. If there were some way that one could actually control the inflammatory response, the body's own immunologic response, that's what I'm interested in. So for those of you who have inflammatory bowel disease, you may want to join me in a series of clinical trials, experiments, and studies that I'm going to be conducting in my research foundation for the advancement of behavioral medicine in the Center for Behavioral Medicine. So you might want to keep that in mind. We're going to be starting those studies very soon here. And for those of you, by the way, who have any of these conditions, you can contact me through my email. You'll find that on my website, and also the telephone number at the office, okay? So from inflammatory bowel disease to gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD. Everybody's heard of GERD, okay? Real nasty thing. A lot of acid refluxing from the stomach into the esophagus, very poorly protected. Guess what happens? Some real destructive stuff happens, okay? You can just talk to your doctor about that and how it's treated. There are some medications out there now to stem the production of hydrochloric acid. I want to take a look at them over the long term, okay? I have a behavioral program here based on a lot of what I am and what I have learned as an experimental psychologist in learning theory laboratories. I'm an old rat runner, experimental psychologist, so I bring a lot of these principles out and begin to implement them, quite frankly, in my clinical practice. These principles, embodying what's called behavior modification, if it's done correctly, very powerful in changing body function and symptoms associated with some of the conditions that I've just described. Okay? Now that is going to get us going for about a month, maybe a little longer. But if you are interested in learning more about the subjects I'm going to be talking about in this field of psychosomatic medicine and psychophysiology, I ask you to go to my website. You will see a calendar that will list the topics that I will be presenting throughout the month and the dates. Over here, on the other hand, there you will find a calendar that will have posted on it all of these archived lectures. So if you miss something, you think you want to go back and review something, just click on it, okay? There are a couple of other calendars that are worth taking a look at on that website as well. You're actually looking at me through my YouTube website. So as a video presentation here, I simply refer you to my website for further information on these subjects. There's a calendar here for those of you who are interested in any of my clinical trials, experimental studies for any of these psychophysiologic conditions here. I will post a list of orientation dates and times where you can join me here at the center, and these are free informational orientation meetings to discuss the nature, the purpose, the nature, and the characteristics of each one of these studies I'll be involved in here. All you have to do is click on the date, note, make sure you get in touch with me, let me know that you are interested in participating in that. And I will simply join you at one of those orientation meetings for my research subjects. Over here, those of you who are interested in any of the work that I am doing clinically, just note that. You can actually enter your name, phone number, email, and if you'd like to schedule an appointment with the center here, you just give me a call, okay? So we have 4 different calendars that you can draw from in the center. You can also take a look at if you're interested in learning a little bit more about me, go ahead to that center website. There's a bio on me. give you some indication of who I am. Also, a list of treatment programs. Also, a list of the disorders that I have patients have had that I have been treating literally over the decades now. Okay, so acquaint yourself with that website, and if you will, join me now. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be talking about obesity. Thanks. I'll see you then.